Hello, my name is Kim Dalum, and I'm the founder of Dalum Beverage Equipment. I would like to make this live presentation for you today. I'm based here in Denmark, so there's a bit of time difference. We do also operate a facility in US for your knowledge, but I have the pleasure to give a bit of background of what we are doing in Dalum Beverage Equipment. A bit of background about myself. It was a natural pick for me to define a business model for making CO2 plants for craft breweries. I have worked about 30 years in engineering companies, global engineering companies working for the brewing industry, among others, Krones, Alfa Laval, latest Union Engineering, now a part of Pentair. We also had the American company Widemann making CO2 plants. So I have a good background from that part. So I left Union when Pentair acquired Union, and some years after I founded Dalum Beverage Equipment with the aim to help craft brewers to save cost, improve sustainability by making proven technology available and financially feasible for smaller breweries. It was a natural shift for me to go to craft brewing as I worked with the large brewing groups all my life. They became more and more consolidated, and I think some of the culture and camaraderie we had in the brewing business was lost. But I found it again within craft brewing. I didn't have a clear idea of which product to make for craft brewers. I have a lot of experience with different technologies, so I worked with some local breweries on a few projects, and they make the pick for me. They asked specifically, could you please make us a CO2 plant in craft scale? And it was a challenge because things has a cost, and components are available in certain sizes, and definitely it wasn't available in craft scale. So I started doing it all from scratch. We even had to build our own compressor for it, and most other components, by the way. But now after 5 years, we have sold 60 units worldwide, 40 continents, and here of 7 plants in North America. Sorry. So what I'm going to actually tell you today, present today, is why it's now the right time to install CO2 recovery, in my opinion. I think many breweries are in a difficult situation. It's a challenging situation for many breweries with stagnating sales, increasing energy, raw material, and labor cost. And what I think I see many brewers are rapidly turning the attention to cost savings and optimizing efficiency. And installing a CO2 unit will actually save you cost from day one, and it'll save you cost the rest of the lifetime of your brewery. So I think first of all, it's a good investment, um, and it's easy to install the units. Our experience installing so many, it's actually making making it easier for us to come up with concepts that are genuine and actually cover many different um, situations. And the third point is that you can secure your own supply of high quality CO2, and most of our customers are actually self-sufficient now. Uh, the customers not self-sufficient it's mostly because they have production of soda or soft drink as well. So we have done many projects and with many different breweries. We have some breweries as old as 400 years, and we have installed with new breweries not even completed yet. We have installed with breweries from 2,000 barrel a year up to about 100,000 barrels a year. We do storage tanks from 500 pounds up to 10 tons. And we can do very compact layouts. We have also done layouts where we run 350 feet pipe to the storage tank. So we are flexible in terms of layout. We can do installations affordable with the PVC hoses from the tanks to the CO2 unit. And we have also installations with stainless steel piping. And if you have cooling available in the brewery, you can use your coolant, or if not, we can install a separate chiller. So that went a bit too fast. So what I would like to do in this presentation is actually to mainly give you some examples what we have done. So the first point here, that it is actually a cost saving to install the units. I'll illustrate by some examples I have shown. This is actually our first uh, machine installed in an island on Bornholm. It was the first one installed on a commercial basis. We had a test unit before that one. It's on an island, and you see we actually managed to take over the CO2 storage tank. In this case here from the gas company, we installed this unit with the brewer's own foam trap. We installed piping and collection stations in the brewery where they can connect the tanks directly here with the red hoses. And it's convenient to put it here over a flow plate. Actually, this brewery produces enough CO2 to sell, and as they are located on an island, it makes sense to sell the CO2 in cylinders to bars and hotels where they distribute kegs. So in this brewery we also installed a cylinder filler, and it's very good business for this brewery. We have another brewery here. It's an example. It's up in Scotland. It's some years later. It's after the lockdown of COVID-19, because nothing really happens in a couple of years, and we had plenty of time to improve our technology. But this one was one of the first coming in after the lockdown. It was a bit larger brewery. You see they have two machines here, a steel foam trap here in the middle. They have a 2 tons tank. It sits on a skid, so we provide tanks up to 5 tons on skids like this. That means you don't need to make a concrete foundation, so it goes in easily, and we do the piping here on when we are on site, and the collection station as well. So this brewery here, they were self-sufficient from right from the beginning, and they are looking into selling CO2 as well. Up in Scotland, CO2 was scarce at that time and quite expensive, and still is expensive. So uh, it's a good business case. This brewery here is another. It's a small brewery. It's where we installed our first small 10-pound units for breweries from 2,000 barrels a year. It's Cromarty Brewing in north of Scotland. It was installed. I was there myself to install it. It took 3 days, including a storage tank, a bulk storage tank. It's a 1 tons tank, and a very compact collection system here. They used to buy CO2 in cylinder bundles, cylinders, and the cost went down 90%. Also, they haven't bought any CO2 since October last year. Here's another business case. It's an island Vanuatu brewery, and it's a recent installation. It has a very short payback time, as on islands CO2 tend to be very expensive and supply not very reliable. And so I think that was my go to prove my first time, the first point that CO2 recovery actually saves cost, and we have proven it in many installations. So the the next point is actually that it's easy to install CO2 system. It's much easier than you could imagine. So this is an overview of a system. Typical system, we have the CO2 unit. Before the unit, we have a foam trap and a shut-off valve, a relief valve. And after the machine, we have storage tank, vaporizer, and a user line. And sometimes the storage tank and vaporizer comes in one unit, as shown before. We have the collection station here in order to be able to individually control the fermenter pressures, and also we are able to recover CO2 from purged tank where you have a higher pressure. So this needs to be installed. The green lines are normally flexible hoses. So we need to do an installation of the collection stations connecting to the foam trap, and connections to the tank, and connections from the tank to the user line. And here are again a few examples from Finland, one, two in England. First, I'll give an overview of the four machines we have built until now and have in operation. So we have tried to size them in sizes, so up to 5,000 barrel, 12,000, 18, and 36. The last one is a new unit, and we have price examples over here. They go from 44,000 up to 122, and we need to consider the tank price as well for the installation if you're not in a position to continue rent of one tank and or buy a tank you might have on your premises already. These are also the examples of tons of CO2 possible to recover a year with these sizes, just to give you an idea where we are. And as a side remark, when you are recovering 1 tons of CO2, you actually save the emission of another tons that would otherwise have been used to produce and transport the CO2 going to your brewery. So here are a few examples how we have installed systems as shown on the previous slides. So first of all, we have on this picture here, we have the machine. Again, this is our smallest machine, 10 pounds an hour. This brewery is Left-Handed Giant St. Philip's Brewery. They make excellent beer, but they also recover their own CO2. And we installed this actually and got it up running day 2, and it was fully commissioned in 4 days. You see the CO2 unit here, and there's the foam trap, these pressure relief valve here behind. And in this case, they use this flexible hose. It goes to the first collection station here, and it continues to the next collection station. On the tank, the tank was outside. It's a 1 tons tank with integrated vaporizer, and we will run the piping and cabling out here to the unit, and it's pretty easy when you have it mounted on a skid. The picture to the right, it shows the machine. It shows, you can see the piping are going up here in actually an existing cable tray. So it was pretty neat. Uh, we we do testing during the commissioning. We test for um, different impurities here, DMS, and we normally do for about 10 different impurities to prove the gas is very clean. Here, another recent installation, Black Isle Brewing up in Scotland. It was running day 2, this machine, and it was fully commissioned after 4 days. Of course, here they have a vertical tank, a bigger 5 tons tank with a standalone vaporizer. In this case, they had the concrete slab where we could just mount it, and uh, we did the piping here between the units and to the user line as well. In this case, you see they have the foam trap here just in front of the machine. They have the release valve and shut off valve going to the machine, and the piping to the tank is actually coming up here. We run it up high in this case. Here it was a bit long piping, but we have pressure enough to drive the pressure to the tank. And the piping to the collection station was, in this case, it was a stainless steel piping to the collection station where they have it here again on top of the flow plate. So it's not too complicated. Here's another installation that was a very large brewery, and the customer in this case did the installation by themselves. And it's a brewery. They use two of our largest units, so it's a pretty large capacity. And they bought from us this 12 tons tank, um, where they can buffer up enough to sleep well overnight. And again, they installed a very large vaporizer. This example with the easy installation was the easiest for us because that was a brand new brewery, Gotland's Brewery in Sweden. Uh, New site. You see, we delivered the tank and vaporizer, did the piping here. It was easy accessible, and in the fermentation area, they actually did some piping to the machine. It was nice because when the brewery is new, it doesn't cost a lot to run a stainless steel pipe, and in this case, they bought our stainless steel foam trap, automatic foam trap, where uh, we can get rid of any foaming automatically in this in this model. And the CO2 unit here is placed on a mezzanine, and they choose to go with our chiller, separate chiller as well. And you see here on this picture, you see all the new piping coming up here from underneath, though it was all prepared and very easy in this case. So if it's planned in to a new brewery, it's very, very easy to install the CO2 system. Uh, so now I think it's time to go to the last point I have in my presentation, that I claim securing your own high quality natural CO2 uh, can make you self-sufficient in I would say 80% of all cases. And of course, some brewers are using a bit more CO2 than others. In this case, it is possible to supplement with a nitrogen generator, as Germany in this case here, it's Utopian Brewery in South England, and they became self-sufficient in April last year, just right after they installed this machine, together with a 2 tons tank on a skid just outside the building. They are located in a farming area, and there hasn't been a time where Germany had to buy CO2 yet. Again, Svaneke, it was a very good business case. They have been self-sufficient now for 4 years almost. And as we mentioned, Stewart Brewery, you saw in the introduction, Stewart Brewing, they are self-sufficient and are planning to buy also a cylinder filler from DALUM Beverage Equipment. These guys up in Scotland are Chromatic Brewing are self-sufficient since October last year. It was our first installation, a very compact installation. You see the machine here next to the persons in the picture, and the the piping just goes over the door here to the collection station, very compact, and the tank is just outside the door. And they used to buy CO2 in bundles, and quite expensive to transport bundles to the north of Scotland. So also here, I guess there's a 90% savings compared to buying CO2. Um, we put a lot of emphasis on the quality of the CO2 we are making with our machine, and it has to be said it's not easy. It takes a lot of experience actually, and it takes um, a lot of trials to scale down this process to what we what we actually have for large breweries, and what I have worked with for some years with Union Engineering. So first of all, our system is different. We don't need external um, refrigeration source. We don't have a ammonium condenser in our system. This is in order to simplify the system and save money on the capex. So we run our compressor up to 600 psi, meaning we can condense the CO2 at 35 Fahrenheit, and that gives us much better option to condense CO2 with the available cooling sources. And the purity, we discussed it shortly. We test with tubes, with gas detection tubes. What we cannot test is the oxygen level, and this is something you should be really have attention on. The oxygen level. It's very important for your beer to have low oxygen level in the CO2. I'm sure you know that much better than me. And our system has it has a 3-stage rectifier to get rid of oxygen. First of all, our patented condenser and stripper and reboiler in our system. So we are able to produce CO2 with ppbs in single digits. We cannot guarantee single digits, but this is what our customer with the right equipment can measure. I would say between 5 and maybe up to 20 ppb is normal with the CO2 from our units. We don't have an inline control or inline quality measurement in the machine. It's an indirect measure we have. It's measuring the dew point, which we can do inline, and if we know the dew point is low, as you see here, it's bone dry CO2 coming out, then we know our purification process is working as well, because it's basically the same process for water and other impurities except the oxygen. So here's a table of the typical level of impurities we have. I don't expect you to read all these numbers here in the presentation, but in short, we comply with the ISBT for food grade CO2, and we measure for these components here, as I said, with testing tubes. Even we test ammonia, benzene, methanol, even though you don't really find it in in fermentation CO2, but legally it's sometimes a requirement to do that because there has been accident with ammonia and benzene in CO2 that comes from petrochemical sources. The only one where we are far from the ISBT allow up to 30 ppm of oxygen. We don't even allow 30 ppb, so we are far below on that parameter, and the moist as well. And this is, I say, this is possible to test. It's possible to prove this using the detection tubes, and if you have in the brewery already an Orbis Fair or Anton Paar or maybe a Halfman's oxygen tester, you can easily test for oxygen as well. One of the reasons we don't have any oils, benzene, ammonia, is that our own proprietary compressor is stainless steel. All seals and rings and so on, all material in the compressor is FDA approved material, so it's there's no risk of jeopardizing your product here. The compressor is very it's very quiet, so it's not very noisy. You can have the CO2 machine almost everywhere you like to have in the brewery. When it comes to quality control and troubleshooting, maintenance, we have a system on our machine. It's a PLC, and we have a self-diagnostic system. Most troubles will actually be solved by the plant itself by recovering from the issue it has. But moreover, it has some alarms as well. So it will explain in the alarm. It will explain what to be done to get back to normal. We also have this dashboard on the machine, or rather you can have it on your iPhone, or you can have it on your PC. It gives you all process data, status on all process data. You can read it anywhere you are, and it has a backlog of production data, but also all process parameters are saved in a period you choose. So in case there's an issue or troubleshooting to be done, we can easily go into the history and check all parameters and make troubleshooting really easy. So there's a variety of opportunities here for, I would say, all brewers, and I think it's easy to install. With all the installations we have done, we have found good solutions, and we have a standard for most brewers that are not too expensive now, and it can be installed really quickly. So here, this is just to illustrate that storage tank, we make it for any need from 500 pounds up to 12 tons tanks, and the same for the CO2 machines. For installation collection stations, there's a variety of ways to install it on tank legs, as here on flow plates, here on the walls, on the back from the fermenters. So it's really easy to install a CO2 unit. Which what was my point for this installation? I choose not to focus too much on our technology and the technical aspects, because that is something we just expect to be working and to be dealt with. Yeah, so I think to come back to the purpose of the presentation, I think we have talked about how it saves cost for the brewery to install the CO2 unit, and especially in this time where brewers are looking for cost savings. For sure, here's a cost saving. It'll save you cost from day one, and actually as long as you operate your brewery. And the experience we have now with installing more than 50 machines, I would say we have found a way that makes it easy, and you can be comfortable. We can do it, and we can do it fast. In terms of being self-sufficient with CO2, it's something we have talked about. How actually can we do it? How can we do it in steps so people will be confident that they will be self-sufficient? And of course, you can do it in steps. On the other side, we went back in history and checked how did they do it. The most successful customer who actually became self-sufficient right away and has been forever since. What did they do? How did they do it? And what they actually did was they were committed from the beginning. They burned the boat, if you can say so. They actually, in some cases, they got rid of the storage tank they had on site and bought their own. They ceased the agreement with the current gas supplier and just uh, committed 100%. We have other customers who have taken it more step by step, and it it takes a bit longer time, of course. However, in this situation, they ensure they have a backup opportunity, so they can still buy CO2. They have an extra storage tank, or they may have an option in to install bundles if they need more gas. I suggest the last opportunity is better to buy uh, bundles, because it can be quite expensive to go for a solution where you have two large storage tanks. Uh, Gas companies are normally not happy to fill into your own tank where you recover CO2. Um, I think there's no reason not to do it, but some companies are not happy with it. However, we have 3 or 4 customers where the gas company actually accepted to fill into their own tank, so it's not something that is impossible. And I think if you are in this situation, it would be good to ask for it, if it's possible to either continue the rent of your existing tank and use it for recovery, or buy another tank that the gas company can back up if needed. All right. I think I will wrap it up here and leave time for questions, should there be any questions to my presentation. All right. So if not, I'll just finish up and saying thank you for listening. And if you need more information, please don't hesitate to contact us. Can contact DALUM US in North America. They are located in Wisconsin. Thank you.